good. It's a triple-double for Bella Earl.
Goes matched up with a speedy guard. Great screen, spin move, layup, he missed it. Williamson fights for the board. His putback is good.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another Straight Outta Whack podcast here on this Whack Wednesday, I guess we could call it, here with Daryl Trujillo. And today we're, as you can see, I'm wearing the green hat. I don't like these Nike hats. They don't fit like they should. They're a little, maybe it's just I got a big noggin, Daryl. I don't know. But either way, repping my alma mater because today we're talking with Utah Valley women's basketball head coach Dan Nielson, who is joining us from the Nuvie Center in his beautiful office there that is overlooking quite I don't know if I want to say change of scenery, but like quite an addition to the scenery there on campus.
Oh, for sure. Yep. First of all, thanks for having me on. And yeah, I've got a great view of the new soccer stadium. It looks great out there. So pumped to have that. Another great addition to the athletics facilities.
Yeah. And if you don't know, it's the UCCU ballpark, which is the baseball field. It's the UCCU Center, which is the basketball arena. And it is the UCCU Stadium, which is the new soccer stadium. I think it was $20 million build investment, and game changer for soccer at Utah Valley. What are they? One of two schools that has Division I men's soccer, because I believe Utah Tech does too. So uniqueness and good times there.
Yeah, good stuff just keeps happening here. We're getting stuff built, getting stuff done. It's a good time to be a Wolverine.
It is. It truly is. Now, I don't know if you have one of these hats. This is what Nate Rasmussen, the baseball coach, gave me. It doesn't fit my head right. I don't know if it's like just the Nike design, but like New Era, they need to go to New Era or something. I know Nike sponsors Utah Valley, but man, these hats, and then the brim, you have to play around with it because it like sticks up. Have you seen these hats?
I have. I mean, I think the baseball guys I don't have any of those. I always wear the ones that kind of got the Rays logo. It says I got one that says like Utah Valley in the strip. Okay. It's a little vintage, for us, sweaty guys. So I wear a bunch of those. I got a couple colors of those. I don't have the ones the baseball guys actually wear. So okay. I'll take your I got a big head too, so I probably wouldn't fit me either. So.
Are you a snapback guy then over a
Yeah, I mean that's what I wear a lot. I mean, when you become like a middle-aged dad, you just got to go middle-aged dad style. If I wore like a flat bill hat like my 16-year-old would probably like not get in the car with me. It'd be like, "Oh my gosh, dad."
So funny story at the Wolverine golf tournament, where your hole seemed to always get held up for whatever reason.
Everybody likes talking to us. That's why.
It was a good time. I got home that day, and I had worn a white Utah Valley hat that was a snapback, right? I get home that day, and because I shaved my head now, I had the eyeball right where, on the back of my head, right where the snapback was. I'll have to send you a picture, but yeah, it looked like I had a nice Cyclops eye in the back of my head.
It's a classy look, anybody would like it.
Oh, speaking of that, how's the summer been? I know there's a lot going on, changes between, with the announcement that Utah Valley is going to be joining the Big West next year, changes in the WAC, obviously with, Grand Canyon, Seattle leaving with 7 teams in this league and, figuring out a schedule. I know when we talked in August at the golf tournament, you guys were still working on putting that together. Finally did get that all together, but how crazy is it just the motion that's been going on basically since the end of the season, one of the historic ones that you guys put together this year?
Yeah, I mean, it was a good summer. Summers have changed, though, at least for basketball. I won't speak for other sports. I think now, it used to be a little bit of a downtime where you could kind of recharge and spend time figuring out what you're going to do with your next team. And the season ends and you're immediately in the portal trying to figure out, you're trying to retain your players from going anywhere. Obviously, both with recruiting and just logistics, trying to figure out the conference stuff. and hey, what are we doing this season for sure, as far as we playing people 3 times? What are we doing, trying to get our schedule done for next year? And then before you know it, summer workouts show up. So kind of feels like we never really had that break. Hopefully the girls did, but as the coaches used to feel like, April, May was a little bit slower, but it's not anymore. Which is good though. But yeah, I feel like all those areas, that we're in control of, we did a good job, and we're excited with what we've got. And then obviously it'll be a different look. Playing everybody 3 times is definitely a little different, but you got no choice but to make the most of it, and try and be the last WAC champions before everybody kind of goes their own ways, and kind of enjoy that last ride. So yeah.
Do you have maybe I've asked you this before, but do you have like a family vacation that it's like, this is every summer, no ifs, ands, or buts, doesn't matter what's going on with recruiting or anything? Like, do you take a week away or something like that with your fam?
We try to. It's different. We kind of alternate family reunions. Like this summer, my wife's family had a reunion that we went to, but definitely is hard. I mean, I got 4 kids between the ages of 8 and 16. And so my 16-year-old's big soccer player. And so soccer doesn't really ever stop. And my 14-year-old's a swimmer, and all they do is swim like all day, every day. And they obviously don't want to miss their stuff. And so it is a lot of our stuff is just relaxing around Utah County. But yeah, we did go to my wife's family reunion, and we're trying to figure out a time next summer to go to Texas to hang out with my family. But it definitely is hard with 4 kids and trying to run a basketball program and all that fun stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Dan, you mentioned just how quickly the offseason moves and that there's really no downtime. Do the shutdown weeks help in that regard, in terms of getting a little bit of time away from basketball?
You would think they would. Honestly, they stress me out more, because maybe it was just the last couple of years the way it's worked out. Maybe some bigger programs get their roster set, just bam, couple weeks, we're good to go. If I had my roster set and already knew what I was doing, I'd probably love it. But actually both times was really frustrating, because we were in the middle of I think the first one we were trying to get visits set up, and then all of a sudden it's like, wait, we can't talk to them this week. We can't even we're like rushing to do that. And then the second one, we were working on a late transfer. And again, it was kind of actually a pain in the butt to deal with. So it's good, because in theory, it's like, okay, everyone's taking a break. The reality is, if we're being honest, is people that are going to work, they're going to just keep working anyway. Like, if we're just being honest. So I appreciate that they're trying to mandate it, but in some ways it almost just gets in the way for us. So I wouldn't mind if they just got rid of them. And if you want to take a break, take a break. I think there shouldn't be pressure to do what other people do. You should run your program the way you want to, and work at it when you need to work at it, and take breaks when you need to take breaks. But
do they have that same shutdown on the men's side too?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. That's another thing.
I mean, I think it's a good idea in theory, but in practice, like, you magically still see people during that week posting that they got offered, and it's like, oh no, I got offered like last week, I just didn't post it till now. It's like, okay, whatever. So
it's a good time to be in college athletics. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
Well, Dan, let's talk about this historic season. I mean, most wins of the Division I era. You've increased your wins. You even mentioned that in your post-game press conference after the WAC tournament. What's been the key? I mean, you've had talent, you've had leaders. What was the key last year specifically that kind of got you guys not necessarily over the hump, because you want to get to the NCAA tournament, you want to win the WAC,
yeah.
But like, to say, hey, we're here, we've kind of arrived, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I think it's a couple things. One is we obviously continue to increase our talent. We've done that, each year. I kind of always separate my time here going into my 7th year into kind of like 2 eras, and I didn't want it split, but when it got split, it happened. We had a bunch of kids transfer late, and then a ton of injuries, and so you're left with what you're left with, and you make the most of it. But so we got more talented through recruiting, freshmen and the portal. And like has always been true in mid majors, we got older. We had a bunch of older kids. that knew how we played, how we wanted to play. And as cliche as it sounds, our culture, we have a whole entire team of kids that we have recruited. We know who they are. We know their strengths, their weaknesses. They know what I expect. And they're like-minded in that way, the different personalities, but they understand what's expected. And I think that's huge at our level. It's pretty rare you're going to go get just all talent and just beat people, rebuild every year. So getting old, staying old was big. I thought the way we started the season, getting a little momentum and continuing to see the build. I said it at the end of the year last year, going from 6 wins to 10 wins the year before that, nobody should celebrate it, but we knew on the inside, like watching the development and where kids were at, we're right on track with what we think we should be doing, and it's helped in recruiting, where if you look at my first 3 years, we got better every single year and kids developed. And then, stuff happened and all of a sudden we weren't good. And instead of quitting on it, we just started over again, and we've done the exact same thing. And the next 3 years do the same thing, more wins each year again. You see kids developing, their stats get better, they get older, they get smarter. And the thing I'm excited about is this year, everybody stayed, everybody stayed. And so we feel like we're back at that same point we were a few years ago, except our culture is stronger. And so the draw from other people reaching out, trying to get people to go in the portal didn't happen. And they decided to stay and be bought into what we're doing. And so it doesn't guarantee success, but gives us an opportunity at success. So I think we're in a good spot to build off of what we did last year and try and increase that win total again.
You talked about being older, in the portal era. You're loaded with seniors. Like you said, everybody came back. I mean, how we could say it every year. It's a kind of, like you said, cliche type deal where, it's great to have everybody back because they know what we want, which you've already said. But when you have youngsters who are just getting their first taste of college basketball and so forth, how nice is it to have those seniors where you may not have to do a ton of coaching initially to get them up to speed on things, to get them to understand the culture, because you have so many veterans on your roster that understand that culture.
Oh, for sure. I mean, today, so we have 30 days we can practice out of the 42 before our first game. And so we had a scrimmage in a couple weeks on a Saturday. Normally I give them Saturdays off. So we had to take a random weekday off to get the numbers right. So we took today off. And so I went for a slower fat guy run this morning and got in a little later. And when I got in today, it was a perfect example of that. Some of it's X's and O's, but it's also just seeing how to work. And I walked in, and a lot of those older kids are doing their own shooting, and there's all the freshmen and transfers there along with them. And I guess a lot of them would come get work in on their own and get a workout in on their own. But the fact that that's just the culture of what they do is put in the work and put in the time. Like, you love to see that, and especially a couple of our freshmen, our 2 freshmen, they're learning how to work at this level. And so when you got people to emulate that know what they're doing and how to do it, it just becomes contagious and it pushes people to be better. And it also weeds people out. If people don't keep up and put in that time and effort, you'll stick out like a sore thumb, and this probably isn't the right spot for you. So luckily we've recruited people that want to do that and want to work. And so it makes for good competitive practices and helps our team to improve.
Dan, last year you guys were one of the country's top defenses in a couple of different categories: turnovers forced, steals per game. A lot of credit to that 1-3-1 you guys have put in. What makes that 1-3-1 so hard to go against, particularly if you're the Saturday game in a week?
Yeah, that's another whole other layer to it for sure. When you have less time to prep, we use a thing called Synergy that for all of our film, and it has a ton of extra stats with like insane stats that I can go in a rabbit hole late at night all the time and look at. But our steals, definitely a lot came from our 1-3-1. Defensively, we were actually, our points per possession was almost exactly the same, man and zone. The biggest thing is we work really hard. We know our rotations. We might not be the most athletic, but we're long. We work hard. We trust where we rotate, and a lot of our steals, when you watch them, people just throw it to us because we've applied pressure where it needs to be applied, and we have the length to get deflections. And Obviously, you have to have talent to do it. We've got a lot of kids that can play a lot of positions, but like Kylie Mabry's an absolute monster at the top of it. We've got good long wings there. Our bigs move pretty well. Last year, Allie and Cambry at the bottom of that 1-3-1 probably got a few miles in running around at the bottom. But Cambry's great at it. And we've got a few other kids this year. We're looking at putting some different people there that are longer to try and help with those corner traps. But yeah, definitely a good weapon for us. That one mainly because it created steals for easy buckets. But there's no question with us, defense will always come first. And if we can continue to get steals for easy buckets, then maybe I can sleep a little better and we can win games by a little more, which is good. So,
Dan, who I guess one of the big questions, Allie played for you her entire career basically, and she was a leader, right? She was a leader. And Talia, last year was really good. Who are maybe a couple of your players that need to, I don't want to say step into those roles because it's hard to replace Allie, right? Just what Allie did. But who needs to maybe step up into that role a little bit of that leadership, that you lose with her?
Yeah, I think it's a few people. And, I've always been big on both within the game and off the court, being who you are. Not everybody's going to be super vocal. Not everybody's going to, some people are super vocal. Allie was in the middle. She actually didn't talk a whole lot. But when she did talk, people listened. I think naturally because of being a point guard spot and having watched her sister, Cambry's one that has already stepped into that. You see her doing a lot there. Hallie, as you well know, is very vocal, like me, not just with refs, but with her teammates, and has done a great job there. Kylie, I think Kylie's been with me. This will be her 4th year with me. And those guys have done a good job really stepping kind of into those leadership roles. But then you also have kids that even if they're new, like Kaylee Hedrick coming back to Utah from Colorado State, All-American, JUCO All-American at CSI, played a great program, Colorado State last year. But she's just a tough, hard-nosed kid with basketball experience who's been around for a long time. And you start to add all those guys in and you have a combination of vocal leadership and just people that show up and work every day and lead those young kids in that way. So we've got a group that's willing to do anything they need to win. I say it to them all the time. We are old and we are deep. So nobody should be here expecting to play 35 minutes. Like the way we play, some teams, that's what they do. And those guys are going to have better stats and they're going to win the awards and do all that stuff. You don't win conference MVP playing 24 minutes a game, but none of us care about that. We were trying to win a championship. And so we might play deeper. We might do more. And at the end of the year, those guys can celebrate their first team all conference. That's a great accomplishment. But we'd much rather celebrate a championship than anything else. So they're bought into that, which is hard when you have that many seniors. Seniors always want to start. But it's something that as we recruited and we built this team, they all understood that was the plan. So
Dan, talk about the second halves from Hallie Nelson and Amanda Barcelo last year. I thought those two became really some go-to pieces, especially the last couple of weeks of the regular season going into Vegas.
Yeah, both of those guys. Amanda ended up shooting 47% from 3 last year, which I think she was only a few attempts short from getting and being able to qualify for NCAA stats, which would have put her, I think, in the top 5. And it was really just with her just understanding that that's what we need from her. It's not selfish to take those shots. And she's such a selfless player. It's just getting her to be that aggressive player that way. She's not just a shooter. She's great at getting to the rim. And I think when people know she's looking to shoot, it creates those drives for her. But it was really just her getting comfortable with that. And I thought you saw that growth in real time last year, where she got to the point where, honestly, when she missed, it was a surprise. She was shooting the ball so well the last probably 3-4 weeks of the season. And same with Hallie. Hallie was just, it's consistency and being healthy. She finally had a full year where she felt good. She was able to keep building on what she was doing week by week. And she's tough and she's got a knack for catching the ball around the rim and finishing. And she kind of bought into not just playing perimeter, but getting down low, even though she's not as big and strong as some of those other guys. She's just she's annoying down there. She catches everything, she finishes everything, draws fouls. And so they were, for last year's success, massive parts of what we were doing. I think you look at their numbers and they stick out, but also make us excited for what we're doing right now, and their ability to step in and build on what they were doing and replace some of what we lost. Just two huge parts of what we're trying to do this year.
You talk about Holly Nelson as being tough. I think that's an understatement. Just watching her play and the massive chip that's on her shoulder, like, how does that fuel everybody else when she, I don't want to say holds it in, but kind of manages it to where it's, let's get going. Let's get in play our game type deal.
Oh yeah. I mean, you need that spark. You need somebody with that fire. And, a lot of people might get annoyed, but I like it. There's times where maybe I have to tell her to dial it back for a second, but it's energizing to us. It's how she plays best. And I want her to have that. I mean, that's why she's here. She transferred from the previous school she was at because they told her she wasn't good enough to play, and she's been ticked off about it ever since. And she showed up here and has proven she's a dang good player, impact player for a good team. And so every girl on our team would tell you she's somebody they love having on their team and would hate to have to play against, and that's honestly embodies who I want our team to be. I want everybody to show up and know before they play. I was like, oh, this game's going to be so annoying, right? They're going to have us scouted. They're going to be physical. They're going to, do this. They're going to bump us all the time. Dan's going to be super loud over there, like whatever it is. But I want people to be uncomfortable, and Hallie does a really good job of that and playing her role, and we're grateful to have her for another year.
Speaking of uncomfortable, you get to play everybody 3 times. I know you said it's kind of what it is, but that's not normal in college basketball to play the conference opponents 3 times, and then you're going to play somebody, maybe a couple teams, a 4th time, right?
Oh yeah,
the tournament. So I know it's way far ahead. We got like 3 months before that we get to that point, but in your head, what are you thinking as you look at that and you're thinking about what the prep is going to be like for facing a team, not just once, not just twice, but a 3rd time in a 2-month span?
Yeah, it's really different. Obviously don't prefer it. It's not a great situation because there's massive advantages, like obviously in transfer era, no one knows who's going to really be that good. But yeah, I mean, I look at it and say, we're at UTA twice, we're at Abilene twice, we're at Cal Baptist twice, right? I'd obviously rather have that flipped. Those guys, especially Abilene and Cal Baptist, probably return the most. But it is what it is. And so the thing I love the most about the conference is the game planning, is all that. And so it'll take some gamemanship, and there might be things, if the first game's going a certain way, maybe you don't do certain things against them yet, so they're not used to it. Or, I think you're going to see some bigger changes from game to game and what people do to try and be a little different. Because I don't think there's a team, Grand Canyon was able to create a roster that was enough more talented than everybody last year. They could just show up, do their thing, and they should probably win most games. I don't think that's the case this year. I think this year, on any given day, most teams can beat any other team in the league. So there's going to take some real adjustments and some of that. So from that aspect, prep stuff, it'll be fun. But it definitely is different because it's not necessarily a level playing field with who you got at home and who you got on the road. And but it is what it is this year. And our girls, I mean, they say it all the time, like, hey, let's go be the last WAC champs and do that. And so that's what we're motivated by. And if that means we got to go to those places twice, then it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dan, the trend statistically is that teams that have played in either a WNIT or a WBI do pretty well the previous season in, one shape or form, right? Mm-hmm. Whether they make it to the NCAA tournament like CBU did in 24 or, some other form of national postseason. With that in mind, does the group kind of feel some pressure to prove that they weren't just a one-hit wonder?
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it all the time. We in fact, we just had last weekend our team retreat, getting ready for the year and stuff. Where on those, we don't make like goals, like number goals. I just think, because then if you fail, like, what do? You just quit on the season, you know? We more kind of make standards that everybody agrees they're going to be held to all the time for that year, on top of just how our team operates anyway. And that was one of the things we talked about. Was part of the reason we felt like we were able to build momentum was we still had a chip on our shoulder to prove, you know, we keep getting picked at the bottom and we get better every year, and finish higher than where we're picked. And it's the same thing where we're like, all right, let's pretend we get picked near the top. Like, does that mean we've made it? Like, and everybody was a resounding like, no. Like, we were unhappy still. We wanted to go farther in the conference tournament. We felt like we dropped in the middle of conference last year, some games in a row, you know, 1.2 point games that we should have won. And with even just 2 of those, I think we'd have been in second. And so there's still a chip there, but it's definitely like I'm trying to make sure nobody thinks, oh, we've made it. We're not where we want to be yet. Like this, my background is you win championships, you go to the NCAA tournament. And from day one, when I took this job, I haven't hid from that. I said it in I think my first press conference, like that's the expectation. And that might scare people, but we don't recruit people that are scared of that. We expect a level of toughness, and hopefully you see that in how we play. But yeah, we hope to use it as a springboard, as a positive, but also to not be complacent, because last year at this point doesn't mean anything. When we show up against Bakersfield on the 3rd, they're not going to care that we went to the NIT. They're going to be excited to try and beat us. So I think we've got we're in a good place, still have a chip on our shoulder, but also have an expectation of being successful. So hopefully we just can keep building on it and get through October without, you know, wanting to kill each other, because it gets long.
Speaking of non-conference scheduling, the one thing that popped out on yours was no NTEs this year. Did they just not line up on the right dates? Couldn't find one?
Yeah, it's hard now, and part of it also was not knowing for sure how many games we needed. You know, going back and forth, are we playing 18 games? They kept talking about maybe we do this tournament thing. We weren't sure what we were going to need. And MTEs for me, I want to use the preseason to prep us for getting into conference and be successful. And so if we can make it like it's a conference tournament setting, sure, I'll go do those 2 games. But a lot of times with teams like us at our level, those tournaments that want us to come, they want us to go be cannon fodder for some big team for their guaranteed win. And to me, that's not worth it, just to be like, oh, we went to Cancun. Like, I don't care about that. So yeah, we try and schedule, you know, I think we improved our schedule this year. You know, playing some West Coast Conference teams, got Utah on there, got some Mountain West teams. Yeah, and just felt like that was the route to go to help us to be ready for conference. With moving the season up a week, it did make for a little bit longer breaks in between a few games there, which will be different. But we feel like it's a good schedule to get us ready for conference play. So
nice. Dan, we're gonna wrap this one up. I gotta ask you, I'm gonna ask every coach in the league this, since obviously the change is happening after this season. You know, in 2026, 27, when, you know, the Texas schools go to the UAC and Utah Valley goes to the Big West, and, you know, Utah Tech, Southern Utah go to the Big Sky, you know, and CBU goes to the Big West too. But since you're only going to have to travel to California for conference play after this year, what is a trip, maybe 1 or 2, I don't know, that you're not going to miss from your last 7 years in the WAC?
You know, it's hard because there's a bunch of them. The Texas ones, I know a lot of people don't like going to Stephenville and stuff like that, or Abilene, because it's way the heck out there. Selfishly for me and my family, I'd usually drive up from Austin, so I'd see them, so I didn't mind that. Arlington's easy. Obviously, the Utah schools are easy. CBU will still be going there. Jared and I can't get away from each other.
Yep.
Seattle was this is like the, you know, the mid-major coach in me. I didn't love Seattle because that trip always cost a lot for my budget. So I'm fine being gone with that. I'm going now. Go to other teams that have been gone for a while. Lane and I are good buddies, and I loved eating at RGV. So a lot of people hated the travel to get there, but I loved being there. So I was all about RGV. Lane and I still text all the time. I don't know. I guess maybe SFA. You know, they're stinking good. We always got our butts kicked there. It's out in East Texas, and there isn't a lot there. So yep. I don't know. That might be one I'd be happy to not have to roll back to. But I do think it's a good thing. You know, it stinks that the WAC's ending. I think it's been a fun ride, but I do think, in some ways, I think it's indicative of what might happen as things regress to the mean over the next decade, where everybody went somewhere that made more sense. You know, the Texas people with more people in the South, a little bit easier travel for them. Us getting to Southern California with non-football schools, simple, especially using the Provo airport, flying in and out of there all the time. You know, the other Utah schools with football, the Big Sky obviously makes sense. So I think from a budget standpoint, I think from rivalry standpoints, as coaches and players, you build rivalries, you know, within that. But nobody here locally is like, oh boy, I can't wait for that Abilene game. Can't stand those guys. Right. You know what I mean? And maybe there'll be a little bit of that with the Big West too. I don't know, but I think it's better for college athletics when there's rivalries, when you have some of the regional stuff. You know, I mean, you see it even Lincoln Riley, was it last week, 2 weeks ago at USC, is complaining about a 10 a.m. kick in Illinois. It's like, why is USC playing Illinois? That's a bowl game or something. But it's like we did it to ourselves, you know, and hopefully college athletics starts to, at least the non-football sports will start to regress back to, hey, let's get some regional stuff and emphasize that because I think it's better for the game. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't bash on anywhere we went. There might be some weird places, but I enjoyed it. The WAC was a fun time.
So one last question. I'm going to put you on the spot here too, because I put Tracy on the spot with this question as well.
Yeah.
When Southern Utah, Utah Tech, and Utah Valley split up again, are you gonna continue to try and get them on the schedule, at least non-conference, to keep those regional rivalries consistent? Like, because I mean, we already know about, you know, the BYUs and Utah States and all that stuff, and how scheduling is changing, right? But like, you know, since everybody's gonna need games, obviously, it's always, you know, that Weber State connection, the Idaho State connection, all that stuff, which you have both of those on your schedule this year. So are you going to be working with them, with JD and Tracy, to keep them on the schedule each year?
For sure. I mean, I said when I took the job, and what I even just said, like, those games are huge. I think they're more fun in recruiting. They're more fun, like everything, when there's, you know, kids that played together in high school or club ball or coaches that know each other better. It's good for the game. It's good to grow women's basketball. We've already been in touch with both Tracy and JD about next year. Next year is going to be an interesting situation for us, based on returning contracts, like contracts where we're going to have to return games or get returned to us, and the state of the Big West. Obviously, there's some teams in the Big West that after next year are going to be moving on, but next year they're there, and so we have a huge conference schedule. I don't even know if I'm allowed to talk about it, but we're only going to need a handful of non-conference games. So talking with Mike, my assistant coach Mike does our scheduling, based on the contracts we already have to fulfill next year. We literally only need a couple of games. We're going to actually have our schedule probably done before this season started, which I've never done in my life, because that's how few games we need.
Sure.
So with that, obviously I got to, you know, sit down with my boss and look at, you know, guarantee situations and if we have to do that. But for sure, at least one of them, if not both of them, will be on the schedule. But once we end these current contracts that we have, you know, like we've got Nevada at their place, so they'll come back to us next year, and we have some of those. Once those end, it'll definitely be a priority to get them, Utah State, and make it every single year that we're playing those guys. So
or just do a rotating Utah MTE, you know, one of you guys.
That's been talked about. I'll give a shout out to my mentor, Coach Judkins at BYU. We tried it. I did scheduling at BYU for a long time. We tried, and we're going to maybe try and use the Delta Center. and get everybody there. The problem was nobody wanted to give up home games.
Yeah.
It sounds fun for the fans and for everything, but nobody was willing, especially, having been both at BYU and here. I get it, because if I'm here and I've got Utah Tech coming to Orem, I don't want to lose a home game and have to go play them at the Delta Center. I'd rather play them here. And just like Utah Tech the next year would rather play me down there. So it's kind of a hard ask where there's not in women's basketball the money that would be involved in that type of thing. It's a great idea. I think it'd be fun for the fans, but I don't know if we'll ever get it off the ground, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah. I think they tried doing it for the men and it lasted a couple years, but there were schools left out. So yeah, I can see that. But like I said, you got 9 players from the state of Utah, including Amanda, who, played at BYU. So like that tie-in, like you said, where those kids have played club ball together, played high school ball against one another or together. That's always fun to see them go head to head on the hardwood. So,
for sure. Definitely that's a priority to keep it going for sure.
Yeah. Dan, we appreciate the time as always on this WAC Wednesday, and looking forward to seeing what the Wolverines can do. I will say this. Are the soccer teams, as you've seen, Kyle Beckerman's crew is undefeated right now on the men's side. Chris LeMay, I think they combined for 10 total goals and beating Abilene Christian
10-1 last week. Yeah.
So are they setting the standard of what Utah Valley wants to do in this last year in the WAC in all sports?
I think so for sure. I mean, they, and even volleyball's off to a great start. I think there is something to that, like departmental momentum. Like seriously, like it creates an expectation. And the great thing with like our coaches here is how close everybody is. Everyone's texting each other after each game, before each game. And I think for sure it's a sign of, I think, what's being built here. I always joke, people kind of laugh me off. But this place is like buying a stock early. I'm telling you, this place is going to explode. And you're starting to see it where the returns are happening faster and faster. It took Kyle a minute to get people to really see his vision. And you see it this year with some of the kids he brought in and the success they're having. Soccer, Chris scheduled an insane schedule, but that's because of the success they've had. And so the fact they ended that 500, honestly, is remarkable. And then you see obviously I don't know enough about the rest of the teams in the league, but they go the first week and they go 10-1 on teams in the league. That's what happens when you're playing LSU and Auburn and Kansas and BYU and Utah. And volleyball is doing the same thing. And so it definitely pushes us to be better. And I just think we all believe in what this place can be. And when we're all having success, more, people love wins, people love success, and more people buy into it. And, we're just trying to chase down as many wins as possible, get this community to realize there's not just blue and red in the state, and there's green too.
Yeah. Somebody's in the gym. I can hear the thumping, so I can hear it.
You can, but I'm always going to be straightforward. Today's a quiet day in the gym after my girls got shots up on their own. The men are doing their media day. So if I were to take my computer out there, they've got the lights off with a bunch of, looks like some smoke and some green lighting. And so they're I'm surprised you haven't heard the yelling they're having them do when they take the picture. So, making them look as good as possible.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Dan, again, we appreciate the time. Good luck this season. Like I said, we got 32 days?
It's coming. November 3rd is our first one, however long that is.
32 days or something. Yeah, 33. Well, because I'm not even going to go in the math. We've got about 30 plus days here till the basketball season starts. Dan Nielson, Utah Valley women's basketball head coach. Thanks for joining us on the Straight Outta WAC podcast.
Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks for listening to the Straight Outta WAC podcast. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and other podcasting platforms. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode.